I'm a healthcare worker, and it's been about almost 3 years plus, 5, 6 months. Who's counting, right? Of the pandemic, and it's not going away. There's another spike, and I can't speak for other people, but at least those around me who are healthcare workers are getting burnt out, if not burnt out already. Yeah, I mean, there was record retirements. There is the workload is not any less. The patients are angrier and more anxious. So are we. And I mean, I do everything. I work out, I eat, I sleep, I try everything, I meditate. But that burnout is real. And I'm trying to figure out how to deal with that because I love what I do. And I want to be able to be resilient in it. And I still do a decent job, I think, so far. And I am usually the one who's trying to cheer other people up. But it's very hard with, I mean, COVID and resulting other stuff, and I think all the noise. So, what advice can you give, like someone who's in healthcare, or maybe even teaching, or other ones? Because I think COVID has changed our lives, and I know as a healthcare practitioner, it's very hard for me to think, can I work till when? Am I looking at retirement? A lot of times we start thinking escape.
During the COVID, all of us had struggled a lot.
우리는 많이 두려워했고요.
We had a lot of fears,
지금도 끝난 것이 아닙니다.
and as you said, it hasn't gone away.
처음과 한번 비교해 봅시다.
But let's compare now with the beginning of the pandemic.
우리는 코로나 바이러스에 대해서 아무 것이 없었습니다.
At that time, we didn't know much about the coronavirus.
무지했다는 거예요.
In other words, we were ignorant.
그래서 처음에는 우리는 무시했습니다.
So at first, we actually undermined the effect or impact of the coronavirus.
중국 사람들이 뭔가 모자라고 이런 시설이 부족하고 제대로 시스템이 안 돼가지고 난리를 피운다 이렇게 생각했어요.
So many of us thought that in China they had not enough, medical system. That is why they had this pandemic and so on and so on.
서구에서는 중국을 약간 조롱하는 것 같았어요.
In the West, actually, there are some people who look down upon what's happening in China.
그러니까 그때에 대해서 모르니까 무시했다는 거죠.
Maybe because we didn't know much about it.
그런데 서구 사회에서, 유럽 사회에서 코로나 바이러스가 전식됐을 때 유럽도 중국보다 오히려 더 했으면 되겠지 못하지 않았습니다.
But then in Europe, the pandemic started, and it was as much severe as what happened in China.
그러자 사람들은 놀랐습니다.
And then people became alarmed.
그다음에는 지나치게 두려워했습니다.
And then people became over cautious and fearful about it.
그래서 모든 활동을 중지시켰습니다.
And then they banned all activities outside.
지금은 어떻습니까?
But how about now?
코로나 바이러스가 종식된 것도 아닙니다.
It hasn't gone away.
많은 환자들이 있습니다.
We still have many number of patients.
그러나 사람들은 두려워하지는 않습니다.
But people are not afraid of it anymore.
그러니까 우리가 알지 못하면 두 가지 결과가 생깁니다.
So we can see that not knowing or being ignorant has two kinds of consequences.
하나는 무시하고 주의를 하지 않는다는 거죠.
First, we tend to undermine the influence or impact of it, and we don't be careful.
두 번째는 지나치게 두려워한다.
And second, we get over fearful of it.
이건 우리가 어떻게 하는 것이 바람직한 대응인가?
then what is a desirable response or reaction to something like COVID?
주의는 하되 두려워하지는 말아요.
We should be careful, but we don't have to be fearful.
코로나에 대해서 코로나 바이러스에 대해서 잘 알게 되면 우리는 주의는 하되 두려워하지 않는 길을 찾을 수 있습니다.
When we know much more about the COVID, then we can be careful about it, but we don't have to be afraid of it anymore.
앞으로 더 코비드의 변종이거나 코로나의 변종이거나 그러면 더 다른 종류의 바이러스가 나타날 가능성이 있는 것입니다.
And it is highly possible that we can have different kinds of COVID or other totally different strands of COVID virus.
그렇기 때문에 우리는 주의는 하되 두려워해야 된다면 지난 코로나 바이러스 때처럼 그렇게 혼란을 가져오지는 않을 것입니다.
And if we can be careful, but still we're not too worried and fearful of it, then maybe we will be able to deal with those future viruses to come with a wiser perspective and sense of mind.
기후 변화로 인한 여러 부작용이 예측이 됩니다.
So we can always predict a lot of different kinds of side effects due to the climate change and climate crisis.
첫째는 폭염이 더 강할 거라는 거예요.
First, much more severe heat waves
폭염이 더 폭우가 더 강할 거라는 거예요.
and much more severe rains.
일부 지역은 가뭄이 더 심할 거라는 거예요.
And in some places, much more severe droughts,
산불이 더 강할 거라는 거예요.
much more severe wildfire,
그리고 각종 알지 못하는 바이러스가 계속 발생할 거라는 거예요.
and so many different kinds of viruses unknown to humankind yet.
그리고 물 부족이나 식량 부족이 생겨날 거라는 거예요.
And shortage of water, drinking water, and also shortage of food.
이런 것이 얼마나 빨리 닥쳐올지 늦게 닥쳐올지 시간적 차이가 있지만 이것이 점점 강해진다 하는 것은 예측이 가능합니다.
So it's only a matter of time, how soon or how late, but it's going to become more severe. It's evident.
복을 누르게 종사하기 때문에 좀 더 어려움을 갖을 거라고 생각되어집니다.
And I think that as a healthcare professional, probably the difficulties comes faster and more evident to you.
내가 그 직업을 그만둔다고 이 문제는 해결되는 것이 아닙니다.
But this problems and this crisis does not stop even if you quit your job.
우리는 함께 힘을 합쳐서 이 위기를 극복해 나가야 합니다.
As a human beings, we should work together and join forces to handle and tackle these difficulties.
이것은 더 이상 한 나라의 문제가 아니라 모든 나라가 힘을 합해야 극복이 빠릅니다.
So it's not only a task of one country, but all of us need to collaborate to join forces to overcome this crisis.
그러나 불행하게도 지난 코비드 시기에 보면 오히려 협력하기보다는 갈등하고 자기만 살려고 하는 그런 몸부림이 더 강했습니다.
But unfortunately, during the past couple of years during the COVID, rather than collaborating with each other, we see increased level in cases of conflicts and self-centeredness.
개인적으로도 자기만 이 문제를 피해가려고 했습니다.
And people personally and individually try to get over this crisis.
복을 누르게 종사한 사람들이 많이 사표를 냈습니다.
And like you said, a lot of healthcare professionals retired.
이런 방식으로 이것은 해결이 되지 않습니다.
But we can't really solve this problem with this kind of method.
협력을 해서 어떻게 극복할 것인지 더 긴밀히 논의되어야 합니다.
I think we need to work closely to get over this in collaboration with one another.
그래서 두려워하기보다는 어떻게 하면 문제를 해결할 것인가라는 데 더 관심을 가졌으면 좋겠습니다.
So rather than being fearful of what's going to come, I hope that we can focus more on how to resolve and tackle these issues.
또한 이런 변화가 정말 금방 다녀오는 것은 아닙니다. 조금씩 변해가니까.
And also, this kind of changes doesn't bring us the final day of this world instantly and immediately, because the changes are going to happen slowly.
우리의 나이로 봐서 우리 시대에 그렇게 좋은 말이 얼마나 큰가.
I think that this generation in current society will not clearly see the final day of this human.
너무 두려워하지 마시고 걱정하지 마시고.
So I hope you don't worry too much and don't be afraid too much.
How do you deal with the fear? Because it's still there. We see it. We see flu's coming. Like we already know the numbers. Flu vaccine's out, everyone, by the way. And COVID vaccine's coming out next week. But anyway, public health announcement. But how do you deal with the fear? Especially, like, I was never furloughed. We worked in the front lines ever since the beginning. And it's hard and scary. And we're still there.
But you're still alive.
True.
조금 힘들었지. 사람은.
You have struggled, but you're still alive.
죽으면 아무 문제가 없습니다.
When you're dead, there's no problem at all. So all this problem that we have, we know that they are there because we're alive, so we don't have to worry too much.
우리는 2차 세계대전 때보다 더 어려운 과정을 거쳤습니다.
During the Second World War, we had more severe struggles and difficulties. than this.
중세 때 패스트에 의한 학사병이 있을 때는 이보다 더 큰 희생을 치렀습니다.
And in the Middle Age, we had pest, and we had much more severe casualties.
그러니까 우리가 어떤 큰 희생을 치른다 하더라도 우리는 또 지속해 나갈 것입니다.
So even if we do have massive sacrifice, the humankind will continue.
다만 희생을 어떻게 하면 최소로 줄일 것인가가 관심이지 그것을 피해갈 수는 없습니다.
Our major concern should be how to minimize the loss, but we cannot really avoid it.
그냥 기후변화는 이런 것을 필연적으로 처리해요.
Because climate change inevitably brings about these changes and consequences.
And how do we work together to address this? Say if each of us is already struggling for whatever reason with this kind of environment, it's harder to not be self-centered or not. How do you reach out despite all the difficulties? How do you create? Because you can't solve this by yourself.
이런 현실, 어려울수록 더 이기주의가 된다는 현실로 본다면 극복하기 어렵습니다.
When we look at the reality, as you mentioned, that in this environment it is easier to be more self-centered.
현실,
That's the reality. But if we have already saw a lot of massive sacrifice, and when we can predict a massive amount of sacrifice,
그러면 사람은 또 다른 길을 찾는 그런 능력이 있습니다.
then human beings can also have this ability to think of other ways.
여기 지금 여러분들이 모인 것도 그런 방향으로 갈 수 있는 좋은 출발입니다.
I think all of us gathering together here, I think it's one of the signals that we have this possibility of collaboration for the future.
첫째는 소비를 줄이는 삶을 우리가 지향해야 합니다.
First of all, we need to pursue a lifestyle that consumes less.
그리고 다른 사람과 함께 하려는 마음을 내야 합니다.
And second, we need to have this mindset where we would like to collaborate with each other.
만약에 여러분들이 지금 관심을 갖고 있는 담마가 우리 주위에 많이 퍼져나간다는 희망이 있습니다.
I think the Dharma, the Buddha's teaching that you're interested in, if the Dharma gets spread out more and more, I think we have hope.
첫째, 개인이 검소하게 살고요.
First, each individual needs to have a simple life.
이 부욕과 나눠 가지고요.
And second, we would be willing to share what we have with our neighbors.
경쟁하기보다는 협력하는 것을 가르치기 때문에
And we need to, instead of competing with each other, we need to collaborate with each other. That's the teachings of the Buddha Dharma.
그것이 불교나 기독교는 종교의 문제가 아니라 이런 관점으로 살아가는 사람이 늘어난다면 이런 있습니다.
So it's not a matter of how many Buddhists or Christians we have, but this kind of perspective and mindsets, those people with this kind of mindset and perspective gets larger and larger, and more than we have hope.
그래서 저도 이곳에 오지 않았습니까?
That is the very reason why I came here to talk with you all.
함께 나가겠습니다.
Let's do it together.
So what drives you to keep hoping despite the last 4 years?
저도 살아야 되지 않습니까?
I need to live too.
나 혼자 어떻게 삽니까?
How can I be the only one who survives?
이 지구상에 누가 다 죽고 나 혼자 산다는 게 무슨 의미가 있겠습니까?
So if everyone else dies and only one of me survives, what would it be?
저 벌한 마리, 개몇 마리가 살아있기 때문에 내가 살 수 있는 겁니다.
A bee, a honeybee, or an ant, since they exist, I can exist.
그렇기 때문에 우리가 함께 살아가.
So in this world, we all live with each other all together.
그래서 여기 온
That is why I came here today.